Hey there, everybody. Choppadong here, and we've got a Wednesday split slate day for you coming here on May the 12th. And I am a coach and contributor here at DFSArmy.com, obviously the sponsor of this little video series that we do each and every day when we talk about MLB DFS. Power picks, easy DFS. This is a repeatable process that you can do front to back, day after day. And in fact, in 15 minutes, I'm going to show you how to do both slates. The early slate we've got set up already, the 3 games on the early, and then I'll show you the late slate here in a minute, show you the adjustments that I make to pull up those games, because you want to be looking at just the slate that you're looking at, right? Just the early, just those 3 games. When I look at the pitchers tab, I slide over K score and I see who pops to the top, and I'm obviously going to be targeting Sonny Gray. The rest of them is quite a bit of a drop off there. If you want to take the others, that's fine, but the strikeout potential tonight is on Sonny Gray, or today is on Sonny Gray. Now, it's never a bad thing to target, pitchers that are cheap with your bats. But in terms of pitching, now I'm not going to say I'm going to be all in on Sonny Gray. I might be 75% on Sonny Gray, and then I might take the other 25% and infuse some others. I might look at an ownership report if I can find one, something that tells me Cahill or Walker might be favored over somebody else, and then I might put him in the other quarter of my lineups and just roll with those 2 pitchers come hell or high water today. If I look at the W scores instead, that tells me which bats might have a good day against which pitchers. And it looks like Henkes and Harvey and possibly Cahill should be stacked against. So when I scroll over here, I look at the opponent. Chicago, New York, and Cincinnati are automatically stacks I'm interested in. Okay? So it's pretty simple, really. I've already got a couple of targeted stacks. I've already got 2 targeted pitchers with about a 75-25 split. I move on to the hitters to see if anybody in particular stands out, and I sort that by W score as well. The W scores and K score are just catch-all numbers. I don't need to look into all these other metrics if I don't want to, if I don't have the time. I just sort over here by this. I slide back over, and I look at who the teams are now because I'm looking at the batter's perspective. Which team show up? Looks like a lot of Cubs, some Mets, and some Cincinnati, so it checks, right? Everything checks out. Now, if those are the stacks that I'm favoring, which are the hot hitters? And this is where it gets tricky. On the short slates, you're not going to have a big list. You don't need a big list. I don't need 40 guys to look at on a 3-game slate. I just need 10 to 15, maybe closer to 10. I'm trying to take the hottest hitters and pull them forward in the optimizers by giving them boosts to their projections. And that's going to bring more of them into my lineups as either key components to my stacks or as one-off hitters in lineups that is not using that team or that player as a stack. And very simply put, I take the 14-day numbers and I cut them down to 400 or better, right? 400 is an elite WOBA number. I use 400 or better on a short sample. I can always find guys that are a handful higher than that. However, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 guys on that list. I need a little bit bigger list, and 2 of these guys down here are on very short sample sizes. So I need I need to loosen that list up, loosen the restrictions off of that list just a little bit. And so I came down to 360 in WOBA, and while 360 is not an elite number, it still is pretty good. Guys that are hitting 360 or above are on this list. Guys that are hitting 180 or above ISO, not quite 200 like I like to use, but 180 or above are on this list. And so if you hit both lists, then you're a hot hitter and you're somebody that I should be targeting in terms of baseball's a streaky game. I can watch these guys ascend and descend. Like Jose Ramirez, 447 2 weeks ago, 368 last week. He might be cooling off. He might be on the way down, right? It won't last forever because he's a 415 over 2 years. He'll come back up. His 30-day number is even a little bit low, right? So it's ups and downs and ups and downs. And I can time the market this way because they will either appear on my list or they will fall off of my list. I look at a guy like Jesse Winker at 4. He's running a little bit hot at 417 over his normal near 400, but at 591 over the week, he had a good week last week. Maybe he keeps it up for 2 weeks. These 2-week numbers can get pretty big. So maybe he keeps it up next week. And what we're doing is we're taking value, even at 4,900 on DraftKings and 3,900 on FanDuel. We're taking value because his production is exceeding his price. So he's kind of on sale for what he's currently doing. Now, when he starts to cool off, we'll notice this number will start to dip below this number and we'll get off of him, right? Because by then it'll be overpriced. So that's all we're really doing with these hot hitters. I've got pitchers, I've got stacks targeted, and now I've got hot hitters that I'm going to boost in. And then I just run my stacks, 4x3, 5x2, whatever it is that I'm doing on whatever site I'm doing. And I try to take some leverage. I try to be a little bit under the ownership radar, not play pure chalk in this format. I've got another format where I am playing pure chalk and testing it against this format to see which one does better. And I'll let you know if anything definitive shows up. I just started doing that this week. But I always run these little experiments. I love doing it. But right now, this is the typical format that I use. And so you've got your hitters to boost into projections. You run those 4x3s and 5x2s. You get a little bit under the radar. You avoid the chalk offenses. You get to, in this case, maybe avoid the top chalk offense and play the second, third, and fourth guys as stacks. And you're a little under the radar. It might make the difference for you in a tournament. Okay? But if I'm going to now take this back and do the main slate, all I do is go to the time filter and I uncheck these guys now. See how that worked? And now I'm looking at just the main slate guys. I come over here, I sort the chop shop again. I just do the process all over again. Where are my high K scores? Where's my high strikeout potential tonight? Clearly, Garrett Cole, Ryu, Duffy. This is the wrong Will Smith as usual, Urias. These are guys over 500. They're well over 500. Then there's a bit of a drop-off down here to McHugh, Erod, Woodruff, whatever. Doesn't mean those guys can't have good games. It means these guys have the high strikeout potential. So when I'm looking on a bigger slate, I may cut down to the top 4 or 5 pitchers by ownership. I like chalky pitchers. So if I take those 4 guys that are the top owned, and let's say Ryu or Duffy is not in there for whatever reason, because they have a high K score, I will then include them and have 5 pitchers or 6 or something like that, because I don't want these guys ignored. They have high strikeout potential tonight and they might go off. And if they go off, I want them in my lineups. At least 5%, 10%, something like that. I'm not going to put a minimum on them or anything like that. I'm just going to allow the optimizer to bring them into the fold. Okay? And that's how I set that part up. And then I'm done with pitchers. I don't need to worry about too much. I switch over to bats, go descending, and now McHugh, Lester, Dunn, Mize, Happ, Fried, Erod again, Urquidy. These are guys I maybe want to stack against because they're carrying high W scores. So I slide over here and look at their opponents. Yankees, Phillies, Dodgers, Royals, White Sox, Toronto, all in good spots. Oakland even, in good spots. Right? So these are stacks that I expect to see when I kick over and do this with the hitters. This is a little redundant, to be honest with you. But it's not a bad thing to check. Select all, click, 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 turn those games off, bing. Now we're in the main slate. Come over here and sort by W score again. Sometimes it messes it up. Blanks will come to the top. I want to get rid of those. These are guys against no samples. So whoever Boston's facing today in Arizona, either the pitcher doesn't have numbers or he doesn't have a sample size worth a damn. So whatever. I'm not that worried about that. I can scroll down here to where I get some guys in the fold, like about so. And now I slide back over here and start looking at what team. Well, loads of Yankees. Yankees have a great matchup today, as we saw on that previous tab down here in the pitchers tab. Phillies, White Sox, some Angels, whatever. If I take the Yankees out, this is what I like to do when there's a big glom of them in there. Now who's next? Oh, Chicago, LA. It's pretty mixed up. Okay, there's no real dominant team that shows up like the Yankees did. So the Yankees are my top stack most likely, and then I'll run from here on these other guys and see what happens. Okay, so it's really, really simple, guys. You don't have to spend a lot of time and doing a lot of research and really diving in and going crazy. It just doesn't matter. You can if you want to, but I can play just as competitively as anybody doing this and play right up there against them. Do the same thing, knock down to the main slate on the trends tab, slide back over here. Let's see now how big this list got. Let's go ahead and cut that list down a little bit more. Whoops, change that greater than filter to about 400. Since it's not greater than or equal to, we'll come and click below. We'll include the 400s. So 399 and greater, and 199 to get the 200s and above. Now there's my list. It's not very big, right? If I wanted a little bit bigger list, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 names, I want that list to grow a little bit. I might loosen up a smidge on the WOBA. And now my list grew about another 5 or 6 names. So now I'm in about the 25 name range. That's about right. I come over here and I start comparing. Now, if you want to really nitpick, you can see guys that are ascending like Miguel Rojas. Guys that are descending are in here. Maybe Giancarlo Stanton at 527 to 440. Not that 449 is bad. 399 to 305. Ozzy Albies. That might be one you take off your list. You know, just or not. Just leave them on there. Their 14-day numbers are fine. If they're going to have a good season and hit hot for 14 and 30 days, leave them on there, right? I come over here and I take the team and sort by ascending order on the longer lists, and now I just go through and sort my optimizer by alphabetical order as well, and I go click the boosts on the Arizona guys, these 2, Cabrera and Rojas. 1 Atlanta guy only, 2 Boston guys, 2 Chicago guys, 3 Houston guys. Last week, there were no Houston guys on the list. A few of them got hot. We're going to miss the boat perfectly. You know, we can't perfectly time it, but we're going to catch it pretty quickly by watching those 7 and 14-day numbers because they pop on and off these lists all the time. There were no Dodgers on the list a couple of days ago. Minnesota, 3 of those guys. Another thing that you can do, if you see a lot of hot hitters, you know, and instead of a one-off, you see 3 or 4 from the same team, you can stack that team, stack Astros, stack Twins, whatever. These are all ways you have to dive in and you have to use your head and you have to formulate your game plan and do what makes sense to you. There's a jillion things that make sense. There is no one definitive way to do this. But what I've shown you is in 15 minutes or less, you just busted up 2 slates, an early only and a main slate. And the main slate's, you know, relatively sizable, 9-10 games. This just doesn't take a lot of time. Now you go in, you set up your domination station optimizer, and you let it rip. And you can play MME this way. You can play even cash games this way. Cash games, you might dive in here into the chalkboard and use the ownership projections as your points and build for the highest. 23% pitcher versus an 18% pitcher. I take the 23% pitcher and call that 23 points. And then I add up my lineup as I go. Can I get to 170, 190, 200 points? If I can, then I've got a pretty damn chalky lineup, and there is insulation, there is safety in that chalk when it comes to cash games. If I treat it, again, I mentioned this yesterday, it's like your life preserver. If you're in a boat, it's going to keep you afloat most of the time. It's going to keep you playable, viable. You're not going to get completely demolished because those small ownership teams, there just aren't enough of them to really bury you in the leaderboards. Right? If you play the chalk and the chalk does well, then 50-60% of you are doing well, and those low-owned guys don't have a chance against you. But if the chalk doesn't do well, you've still got 50 or 60 guys you're fighting with, and the top 10 to 20 of those are going to make the cash. So you can have your chalk completely fail, and if the other part of your lineup is better, then you know the top 10 to 20% of that big group of chalky people, you're still in. That's how it works. If you need that type of coach, need that type of advice, you want to talk in more detail about the strategies that go into cash games, MME, tournaments, single entry, 3-max, whatever, come talk to me. DFSArmy.com. Super easy. You sign up, you become a VIP, join our Core 4, whatever it is. Get into our Slack chats and start asking questions. We have coaches. I'm different. There's other coaches that teach different methods. Something's going to work for you. And you're going to learn that method inside and out, and you're going to have more success. If you're a struggling player and you want to turn it around, come and give us a try for a month or 2 and see where it takes you. Might be the best thing you ever did. Use the coupon code CHOP while you're there, CHOP, triggers a 10% off discount on those VIP subscriptions. Come talk to us. We'd love to have you. Talk to you soon. Wednesday, split slate 2 in under 15 minutes with a little promo at the end. Also like and subscribe to the video. Follow me on social media. And we'll see you on the leaderboards. Peace out, homies.